Hello and welcome to the Asian and Caucasian Show. I am Matt, and after living in Vietnam for over 6 months and traveling back and forth about 8 or 9 times now over the last 9 or so years, I've learned of a lot of things that you should do, but maybe even more importantly, I've learned some of the things that you shouldn't do. And recently I made a video talking about that and it did pretty good. So here are 5 more things that you should never do in Vietnam. So starting this list off, number 1 is never go browse shopping early in the morning. And so you may be confused a little bit by what I mean by that, but essentially I mean if you're just going to look and you do not think that you're gonna buy, then maybe don't go early in the morning, because at least some people, not as many people now, but some of the older generations, they have a belief that if the first customer of the day does not buy, then that doesn't bode well for the rest of the day. So you're more likely to run into somebody who is a little bit more pushy of a salesperson and maybe even a bit rude, or at least that's how they will come off to you if you're just going to look around. Now, on the flip side of that, if you do think that you want to buy, then you could possibly haggle a little bit better early in the morning, because they may be more willing to give you a better deal considering they want a successful purchase early in the morning. Then again, maybe that's a little bit manipulating. So just, forget I said that. Coming in at number 2 is never overpack. A lot of times in Vietnam, you're traveling on buses or maybe trains, and if you're carrying a lot of different luggage and things of that nature, then you're really just gonna find it a very hard time, especially if you kind of want to get off of the beaten path and maybe even do some, not camping necessarily, but go walk down some trails and stay at a unique Airbnb. That may be hard to do if you're carrying around a whole bunch of luggage. Now, I'm kind of speaking to you, but I'm definitely speaking to myself here as well, because this is advice that I need to take. Often I find myself overpacking, and I pretty much always wish that I didn't bring as much as I brought. And most of the time, if you're in a reasonably sized city, they have pretty much everything that you would need if you're in a pinch, and more than likely it's gonna be cheaper there. Coming in at number 3 is never underestimate the heat. One thing that you will absolutely need if you're venturing out for long periods of time is a lot of water. At a glance, sometimes the temperature will not look ridiculous. I mean, it'll look hot. You'll see like 90 to 95 and you'll think, wow, it's gonna be really hot. But if you're in the summer in America here, you'll be like, oh, well, that's not incredibly crazy. That being said, it is extremely humid in Vietnam, and sometimes you walk out and you really do not realize how much extra water that you're losing when it is humid, and it's harder for your body to actually regulate that temperature, and it's much easier to dehydrate. Usually the humidity is north of 80%, and I've seen it much, much higher. So keep that in mind, that even if you're looking at your app and you say, oh, well, I've dealt with 90-degree weather before, you may not have dealt with 90-degree weather with like 90% humidity. It's a different story, and if you go out for an extended period of time, you will definitely realize the difference. Coming in at number 4, and also weather related, is to never plan your trip without checking the seasonal weather. So generally speaking, most of Vietnam is divided into 2 different seasons. You have the rainy wet season and you have the dry season. The issue becomes is that the dry season and wet season kind of slightly differ depending on where you are geographically in Vietnam. So maybe if you're in central Vietnam, going to somewhere like Da Nang, for example, the wet season may not start until closer to like July-ish. But if you're going to Phu Quoc, which is very far south in Vietnam, then the rainy season starts around May. So I'm not going to go into all the minute differences, but generally speaking, depending on where you're going, be sure to Google and make sure that you're going at the appropriate time of year. Now, once you venture further up north, some places do experience more of a 4-seasonal weather pattern, and other places you may even decide that you would rather go in more of the rainy season because, well, the alternative is it's super hot. So generally speaking, just pay attention, find out and figure out what you want to see in Vietnam, and then you can kind of make the decision on when is the best time to go. And last but certainly not least, coming in at number 5, is never forget to have a great time when traveling in Vietnam. I know that travel can sometimes be a bit overwhelming. Of course, we all want to see amazing things and we all want to go to incredible places, but sometimes things do not go as planned. A flight delay here, or maybe a mix up with the hotel reservation there, and before you know it, you're completely stressed out and you're not having a good time. Try to remember that you're in a place and having experiences that some people will never get to have and will only dream about. And maybe you've been dreaming about having this experience and all of a sudden you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not actually living in the moment and enjoying it. This is something that I have to remind myself of many times when I'm going and having a great time. Sometimes I do get overwhelmed and I'm not actually being grateful for the experience that I'm in. And I'm not realizing that some of the great things about travel is the unexpected nature and the novelty of it. And some of the bad things that you may be experiencing now are maybe the best stories to tell when you come back home. So try to relax and have a good time. And if you're someone who is watching all these videos and is maybe planning a trip to Vietnam, like these are the things that you should never do and these are the things that you absolutely must do, just breathe. I mean, of course, keep watching the videos, at least mine, but breathe, take it easy. Everything's gonna go great and you're gonna have an amazing experience. And if you don't, well, you're gonna have an amazing story. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, maybe watch one of these other videos here. Until next time, peace.